Well, we know Framber Valdez is at the GM meetings looking for people to enlist his talent. And if that's not a clean break from the Dana Brown Jim Crane pattern, I don't know what is. Houston has stayed disciplined in refusing to chase the market. But will they go after a king-size free agent? Let's start right now.
Yainer Diaz, this is Locked On Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Heisman and Brett Htown Wheelhouse Chancey.
Everybody, welcome into Locked On Astros. We are your number one Astros podcast with the number one podcast network. That's right. We are Locked On Astros. We're your team every single day. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is a great app. Just download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Use that promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Thank y'all for tuning in. I know it's a little bit late start for me tonight here on Locked On Astros. Got a lot of things to talk about. I've been doing a lot of stuff in the background. But I want to talk about the mention of Michael King as a fit for the Houston Astros. And I know that I've mentioned him before. And although he's not as robust as someone like a Dylan Cease is, there might be some flaws in bringing Dylan Cease in. Number one, the money. Number two, his innings. Someone did bring up a solid point. I can't remember if it was on YouTube or on X about if you're going to have a guy like, if you're going to sign a big name like Dylan Cease, you're going to have your bullpen lined up. 5 to 6 innings is what the guy ends up doing. So in the first segment, we're going to talk about, again, what it means life after Framber, and can King replace LaGrassa? Can he replace Framber Valdez? And why King makes sense for Houston. And I think there are a lot of reasons for it to make sense, not just contractually, but statistically. And I know last year he didn't pitch a ton of innings. And what would the possibility be of the Astros looking at a bat in the name of JT Realmuto? I know we've looked at him in the past, and he's 35 years old. But if you remember, the ghost of Dusty talked about how we would thank him for Yainer not playing the entire season. Well, maybe Yainer, if he had a solid backup like Realmuto and you did not bring Caratini back, look, you know what? A guy can dream, right? So let's go ahead and get started. So can King replace LaGrassa? Well, I have made this contention all along that I don't think that you can replace Framber Valdez. But I do believe that you've got to have depth. And if you're going to dominate, to create that depth, you've got to have multiple options. As you look deeper into what we talked about last show about Dylan Cease, that price tag is much higher. But before we get to that, you kind of lose one of the heartbeats of this rotation. And I know a lot of fans are out there saying that, well, he had a meltdown and he's trying to look good and trying to tell people he screwed up and apologize. I promise you, he's not apologizing for anything this last season. But he leaves this rotation with a bigger hole. Now, I do want to, when we get to the JT Realmuto talk in the end of the show, I'm going to explain myself a little bit. He says, nah, Yainer is better, has a bright future with the Astros. I'm not saying he doesn't have a bright future. I'm just saying, can we entertain the thought? That's it. I'm not saying I want him to replace him, but just wait till we get to that last segment. What one pitcher and one hitter would you want to try to go for if you were a GM? If I was a GM, I would go for Pete Alonso. I love Pete Alonso. I know his price is too high, but if you're going to be able to offload most of Chris Walker's contract, heck, I don't know. He's not as old as I thought he was initially at the beginning of the year. but he's one guy I would go after. And I think Dylan Cease would be the other guy that I would go after for sure. Now, we're talking more realistic targets tonight as they look to retool. You know, you've got Hunter Brown, you've got Spencer Arrighetti. You also have Christian Javier coming back. Hopefully he gets a full season. Jason Alexander, hopefully he gets a full season. And Dorothy McDrew says she wants Cease. Look, I'm not saying tonight that just because I'm talking about Michael King does not mean that I'm out on Dylan Cease, but I just have a hard time believing in my heart of hearts, deep down, that Dylan Cease is going to end up a Houston Astro. Now, I hope I'm wrong, because at the end of the day, it's about making this team better. So here's a question that we have to ask ourselves as we go through these segments. When we're talking about King replacing LaGrassa, was it worth letting Framber walk, or should they have really offered him an extension? Okay. Right here, Omega says Ranger Suarez and trade for Mitch Keller. Who are you trading? That's what I want to know. JP France, where is he? He's rehabbing. I don't know his ETA. I'm assuming he'll be here around June or so. I'm not sure. I haven't checked in on his timeline. But the question you have to ask is, why didn't they pay Framber or offer him, or are they offering him something even though he's a free agent? We don't know that. And even though we know that he's there talking to GMs and trying to sell his services, we know that he had great value. We have chronicled it on the show, and we've also chronicled his meltdowns. So can King replace him? Not really. But I think King is a realistic replacement for Framber Valdez, okay? Now, if you look at Michael King, obviously he's not a lefty, he's a righty. So that presents a problem where you're losing a left-handed pitcher, okay? If you go after, instead of going for the subject at hand in Michael King, you go after Ranger Suarez. He is a lefty. Last year, 157 innings. The year before that, 150, 125. So does Michael King necessarily replace Framber? No. But if you can't get a Suarez, if you can't get a Cease, I think he is your third best option. And right now, that's an option better than nothing. Of course, we've got a lot of people. Stormbum is here talking about Jason Alexander. I mentioned him earlier. AJ Blueball. Yes, he is a guy that will come in and factor in. You've got some bullpen pieces like Bennett Sousa, but we will get to bullpen later. But I really think the answer is no on our first segment. You can't place LaGrassa with King. But if you're going with the Jim Crane model, that may be a realistic replacement. May not be the best option, but it's not a terrible option. And you know what? We're going to go ahead and take a break here and talk about our friends at Game Time. And when we come back, we're going to talk about why King makes sense for more than one reason. Hey everybody, it's Htown Wheelhouse here, and this is Locked On Astros, and this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is an amazing place to go for tickets. The NFL is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium when the Texans roll the Jaguars with a 26-point comeback and absolutely obliterate them. That's right, Texas style. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping to checkout, it can be frustrating when you use other apps. That's why I use Game Time. I honestly use it. It's the only ticket app on my phone. I don't go anywhere else. I won't name names, but I don't go to the other places. Okay? All your fees are up front. They're included. The price you see is the price you pay. You can even find NFL games for as low as $100. We know that is a bargain. I love the zone deals too. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that I've ever bought tickets. So you need to download the Game Time app today. Create an account and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Now, that's right. Now, I said now before I did the transition. So real quick, let me say this. With my podcasting experience of 9 years, writing for 9 years, talking on the radio, writing articles, Eric's 9 years, I would think that we have a lot of solid points to make. And you know what? We may swing and miss at times. And so we don't necessarily profess to have all the answers, okay? Although some people in the media might do that. I like a lot of our Houston guys. They don't tend to come off as that. Now, number one, let's set up Michael King, 31 years old. He's emerged as a top-tier starter after moving from the bullpen. I remember he was a bullpen guy, okay? He was one of the top starters, and he had a 3.10 ERA in his 2 seasons with the Padres. So that right there is big. He's got a lower ERA than Dylan Cease. All right. Houston's a great fit for King. Jeff Passan said he's a perfect fit. Okay. He received a qualifying offer from the Padres, which means if you sign him, it would involve draft pick compensation. Now, with that being said, the Astros, hopefully Framber signs somewhere else, which he will, then you get 2 compensatory picks for that. So that kind of cancels that out. So why does it make sense for Houston? Oh, he says he doesn't perform in the postseason. Who is that? Michael King? You know what? He might not, but he's also never been the Houston Astro. What people performed in the offseason prior to coming to Houston and did exceedingly well, and who did exceedingly worse when they left? I mean, case in point. He replaces the Valdez hole with the strong arm, and he allows the rotation to, I guess, really be re-equipped here. His ground ball and low home run profile fits in Daikin Park. That is what you want, because that's one of the things you're looking to bring in as a guy who can produce ground ball outs, okay? If Houston does sign King, and it suggests that they're targeting, I guess, more of a reload, okay? Now, what is a barrier and a trade-off? Here are a couple things to look for. Payroll and tax constraints, okay? If Houston is near the CBT line, which we know they are, adding King will require them to likely giving up picks. So here's the thing. The more times a team goes over the thresholds, the more they have to give up. And so that could hurt them in the end. Also, there's risk with King. Although it's lower money risk overall compared to Cease or Suarez, King has recent injury issue with shoulder nerve impingement and a knee issue in 2025. So that adds risk. Okay. With every player, there's a risk. Now, I may say that, and y'all may jump off the Michael King train. And you may say, Jeff Passan was wrong. Wheelhouse, you're wrong. I'm just telling you, here are the pros, here are the cons. Okay. So if they sign King, what is something realistic? It would be around 4 years. Would it be 80 million? Would it be 5 years, 110 million? And what do y'all think? What would y'all pay Michael King? Let's say you're the GM. Let's give you the GM hat. Dorothy, Omega, Engineer, Stormbum, Argenis, Jeremiah, Wildlife Chronicles with Luis Garza, anybody who's on here, what would you give Michael King if he were to sign with the Houston Astros? I think a 4-year, $80 million deal would not be bad. But is the risk of him being hurt recently, is that something that we will step away from slowly and say, let's not risk that? You know what I'm saying? I'm a baseball casual, Engineer says, I have no idea. Well, would you rather pay this guy for 4 years or 5 years? Make it simple. Okay. I don't think we're as weak in pitching as people believe. Well, Jeremiah, I have to disagree with you, sir. We have Hunter Brown, our ace. We have Spencer Arrighetti. We have Christian Javier. We have Jason Alexander. Who else do we have as a solid, strong starter? Dorothy said 1 year, $12 million. Okay, now I know y'all are just playing with me. All right, Stormbrum comes in and says, I would probably go 4 years, 90 with the mutual option after year one. Hey, you know what? Maybe a little opt-out action, okay? Incentivize it. Hey, if you stay uninjured and you play, you know, what's the deal? 4 years, 34 seems fine if he's known to be a durable player. Well, he was durable until last year when he started dealing with injuries. Okay, Dorothy's like 3_. I don't know. Now you're only giving him $3. Dorothy, I don't understand binary. I don't know what that is. Anyways, right now, the Astros are said to be in on Dylan Cease. We know they're looking for starting pitching. And I honestly think that if Jim Crane is going to seriously look at winning this next year, he's going to have to get a big name, whether it's Suarez, whether it's King, whether it's Cease. And we've weighed a lot of pros and cons with all three of those. We haven't really done a deep dive into Ranger Suarez. I just think his price tag's too high. And Dorothy, I honestly think that Michael King will probably get more than a 3-year deal. If he's a pitcher, and we know these pitchers, and we know these contracts, we know what MLB is looking to pay and not pay these guys, I really think that a 3-year deal is probably not going to be a long enough deal. Michael King's probably looking at I would say a 4 to 5 year deal. I like the options. His market value right now is $23 million. So Dorothy, you're paying him half of what he's worth. So right now they're saying that he's worth about a 4-year, $91 million contract. What do y'all think? Now, let's compare Michael King to other guys in his same area, like Max Fried, Sean Manaea, Kevin Gausman, okay? 5.4 innings pitched. That's the third most of these pitchers. Ks per 9.86, more than Max Fried. Walks per 9, a little more than Max Fried at 3.16. ERA, 3.26, a little higher. Whip, a little higher. FIP, a little higher. WAR, about the same. So he's really plus or minus 2 percentage points of just about everyone. Look at this. Rafael comes in and says, too risky with injury history. Maybe he is. I'm just saying that here's the deal. If Jeff Passan is saying that he's a perfect fit, he might be hearing something. He might not be. And that's what you have to be careful of, because the offseason can be fun, but it also drive you mad as hell, if you know what I mean. In our last segment, we're going to talk about, are we going to be catching a veteran? Are we going to be going out there and getting some JT Realmuto? And I'm not saying to replace Yainer, but it's an interesting question to ask. But before we do that, we're going to talk about our friends at FanDuel. Now, FanDuel is here. They are America's #1 sportsbook. And I'm here to tell you that if you go to FanDuel and if your first $5 bet wins, you get $300 of bonus bets. Now, what are you doing? Are you watching the NBA? Are you watching the NFL? Are you watching for those fourth quarter comebacks? FanDuel has live bets on everything. Plus, you can even combine your live bets with same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. We know the NBA is here. This is the official sports betting partner of the NBA. You can't make this stuff up, and it is the place to go. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. I mean, your first $5 bet could have been, again, the Rockets coming back on the Bucks. Boom, that's $300 that you can use on betting. So head to the FanDuel.com to sign up today and play your game with FanDuel. This is the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, flying solo one more night, and I'm here. Thank you for making Locked On Astros your first listen, and thank you for making the Locked On Network the #1 sports podcast network on the planet. We appreciate every one of you. Thank you so much. Y'all are the best audience. And again, Eric is working nights this week, so I'm going solo. He might be here Thursday. I am not sure. I almost didn't do a show tonight. We've got our first game this week, my girls' basketball team. So I was putting together playbooks. I give them playbooks every season. They have to keep up with them. They have to know what the plays are. And I quiz them throughout the season. So I'm excited about that. So let's explore the possibility of JT Realmuto. Okay. He is a catcher, and why not tie together a new pitcher and a new catcher for a 2026 reload? Now, here is what JT Realmuto is. This is who he is. He's 35 years old, okay? For the 2026 season. He's still considered among the top catchers on the market. Look, JG says, I'm out on JT. You know what? I guess I lost you at JT, right? But that's okay. I'm gonna continue to go. And look, this is the off season when there's not a lot to talk about. It's called a slow news day. Let's just milk this a little bit, okay? Teams lining up to acquire Realmuto, okay? There is a scenario where he comes from the Phillies to the Houston Astros, and that could be something that is in the mix. Now, they are unlikely to go after him due to the draft compensation because of qualifying offer. You go out there and get too many free agents that have had qualifying offers, you're going to lose a ton of draft picks. So that is definitely something there. But if the Astros are like, look, we want to help Yainer Diaz along, why don't we bring in Realmuto? The dude's got a solid bat. He can catch. Yainer can DH. I mean, we can do all this stuff. And, Spring Panda said, hey, he's getting too old. He's getting too old. What are you doing? How about this? Coax the Rangers to take in Jeremiah Randall. Then they can deal with what we dealt with last year. See, Jeremiah Randall, I don't know that he is going to be in Major League Baseball anymore. I think he's focusing on his personal practice, if I'm not mistaken. But here's the deal. JT Realmuto may be more of a dangling of a carrot, maybe some motivation. Yainer's like, hey, whoa, they're looking at JT. I better step it up. I don't know. But upgrading the backstop improves your pitching comfort, your game calling, your veteran leadership, and especially it's helpful if you added King. Now, with Caratini, I don't know what the deal is. And I mentioned Realmuto, not forgetting about Caratini, okay? I would like Caratini to come back. And let's just say this. If he comes back, then this Realmuto talk just falls by the wayside. But you would definitely upgrade your options at catcher just a little bit. I mean, it wouldn't be terrible. But what would it mean, and what would the implications be for Yainer Diaz? Would he take it as another slight? I know, look, and let me just make sure this is out there. There were a lot of people that said that Maldi and Diaz hated each other. It's not true. I'm telling you, I've talked to Yainer about this personally. That was never the case. And the people, and not really the reporters, it was more the bloggers and the tweeters, as Dusty Baker referred to us as, or podcasters. And he said, we were the reason why, or people were the reason why that he retired, which I find very hard to believe. I think he was just being a little coy there. But, the thing is, with someone like a JT Realmuto, it just makes sense. But then again, if we bring back Caratini, it really doesn't. I mean, you could probably get him on a short-term deal, on a 2 or 3 year deal. I don't know how much you would pay him. I don't even know if it would work out in the end. Again, if you're going to sign a King and you sign Realmuto, that's 4 compensatory picks gone. You get 2 of them replaced because of Framber Valdez. So maybe it doesn't make sense to do that. But then again, I don't make these decisions. I don't know who's really pulling the lever on these deals. Is it Jim Crane? Is it really Dana Brown? Who is involved in this? Remember, the Astros were interested in Realmuto before he went to Philadelphia. Of course, I know it's been a few years since then, okay? So this is what he says. Omega says, sign Ranger Suarez 5 years, 90. Trade Sanchez for a reliever or a starter. I think Sanchez needs to be traded. I don't think Sanchez has a path to this team, okay? And then Argenis, one of our faithfuls, is talking about the Packers. Stay focused on baseball, Argenis. That's why we're here, to get your mind off the pains. My fantasy football team did actually win, though. This might be astronomical, but Nick had a suggestion. He says, trade Walker and Paredes for some young players, and players move Yainer to first. Sign Caratini for another 2-year deal for around $4.5 to $5 million a year. Whoa, that's a lot of stuff. But what players are you signing? Who are you trading? Give me some idea. Look, Yainer Diaz was a top 10 catcher, and this isn't a slight to Yainer, okay? This is not a slight to Yainer. I don't think Yainer's inept. I think Yainer's going to have a better year. I'm just talking about bringing in a veteran. I'm talking about, would this guy accept a platoon, position? If you're going to get rid of Walker, of course, you're probably going to move Isak over to first base, and I made that case last night. The bottom line is this. There are a lot of different avenues and a lot of different ways that so many different ways that the Astros can go in this offseason. And I know we think that our options are limited, but they're really only as limited as they're willing to limit those options, if that makes sense, okay? Does Dylan Cease make sense in certain scenarios? 100% he does. Does Ranger Suarez make sense in several scenarios? 100% he does. Does JT Realmuto? Maybe not as much as these other guys. But I saw people talking about it, and I started thinking about it, and I'm like, well, could you pair him with Diaz like you did with Maldi and Diaz? What would that do? What would that dynamic look like? I don't know. Why not? But then again, are you going to bring in 2 players out of free agency that would have 4 total picks attached to them? That might be devastating. Aren't we trying to rebuild here? So now the question goes to, are we trying to rebuild or are we trying to win now? And that is absolutely what I think is on Crane's mind, what is on Dana Brown's mind. We haven't heard a peep come out of the GM meetings. We haven't seen the Astros say they're signing anybody. I think Anoli Paredes, signed a minor league deal. Again, Framber Valdez is farming and looking for all kinds of teams to take his services. Engineer, I'm talking about Framber Valdez, and you are totally denying what I am saying. Oh, sorry. Panda's having one of his side conversations once again. So let's wrap this up this way. The Astros have a need. The need is starting pitching. The Astros have a need. They need to find a way to offload Christian Walker's contract, trade him, bring in some other talent, and they absolutely need to get another left-handed bat. Is that bringing back Caratini? I don't know what is going on. So the Houston Astros got their work cut out for them. I do not envy Dana Brown in the least because he has got a very difficult job. We are playing chess, not checkers here at Locked On Astros. I'll stop by late at night. Almost 100 of y'all live. And hey, I don't know if y'all noticed a new feature. You can catch us on your phone, like phone style. Catch us on your laptop, on your computer, on your TV. No matter where we are, no matter what time of the day it is, whether you catch us live or on the replay. Thank y'all so much for stopping by. I'm Htown Wheelhouse. Eric will be back soon. Y'all have a good one. And hey, keep your suggestions coming. We got some mailbag moments that we're going to have soon, and we'll be promoting that. We want your questions. We want your thoughts. Why? Because we are your team every single day and a part of the #1 sports podcast network, Locked On Sports. Let's go. We are out.